Hello and welcome to The Discriminating Gamer, the board game review show that really doesn't have a problem being blackmailed by its friends to appear on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to go ahead and look at our top 10 science fiction themed games of all time. Of course, I am Cody, and with me is my good friend...
I'm Zac.
And we're going to go ahead and get started with the list. So, Zac, I'm going to let you take the first one. What is your number 10?
Okay, the first one I'm kind of calling a little bit of a cheat, and since it's kind of a cheat for me, I put it as number 10. For me, what I mean by cheat is if you say, hey, one of my favorite science fiction games is Firefly Clue, or Star Wars Monopoly,
right,
something like that. And I'm okay with this one because the first time I ever played this property was this version of it. And so my number 10 is Star Trek Catan.
Oh, okay. No, I think it's fine.
Yeah, I think it's okay. I'm afraid my credibility is lost on the first one.
And you had never played Settlers before you played Star Trek.
I still have never played Settlers.
Oh, you've never played Settlers?
Never played Settlers Catan. I've only played the Star Trek version.
Because I remember I brought that over to Sean's house,
yeah,
and the three of us played it that one time not long after I got it. Mm-hmm. I think that was the first time you played it.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
And we bought it. We played as a family several times. It's a good... what do you call them? A gateway board game.
It is,
in a lot of ways.
Ticket to Ride or something.
Yeah,
like that.
something like that. And so I like Star Trek Catan. It focuses on the original Star Trek series from the '60s, and it immerses you in the theme very well. Uses, I assume, the Catan mechanic very well, yeah, but it's...
But you got the roll cards too.
The roll cards are great. That really fit the characters well. Every time we play with it, my wife yells at me for some reason or another, which is fun. But we always have a good time as a family with Star Trek Catan.
There's I know one of the expansions to regular Catan also has like roll cards like similar like that.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it works so much better with Star Trek.
Oh yeah,
I get a kick out of it, and I like Catan, and I really like some of the expansions to regular Catan. Mm-hmm. But there's just something about Star Trek Catan I like a lot. It's the theme, and I played regular Catan first, I think.
Yeah.
But I played that not long after, and I fell in love with Star Trek Catan.
No, it's really comfortable. The way they use the Klingon as the thief.
Yeah,
and, all this stuff.
Kirk
fun.
can ignore him.
Yeah.
All right, very good. So your number 10 is
Star Trek Catan.
Star Trek Catan. All right, ladies and gentlemen, my number 10 is a game, and that's from Mayfair Games, published that originally. I don't know if they still have the license to Catan. I don't think they do. I think they lost that, but Mayfair published Star Trek Catan. My number 10 is a dungeon crawler. Now, I'm not... dungeon crawlers are not probably my favorite games. I enjoy them every now and then, but I used to really like them, and now just so. This one is, I think, the best dungeon crawler out there. This is one you've not played, to my knowledge. Mm-hmm. This one is called Level 7 Omega Protocol.
I haven't played that one.
Level 7 Omega Protocol is a... like four or five of you are Marines in a complex. It kind of plays like you would think the movie Alien would play out.
Yeah.
Where you're in this like complex, but one of you is the alien. And what to me makes this so much better and sets it so far apart from other dungeon crawlers is there's this mechanic where every time as the Marine you take an action, you spend adrenaline. Okay,
oh, really?
You spend adrenaline tokens. And then what happens is as you spend adrenaline tokens, the alien character, he feeds on fear. He gets the adrenaline tokens, and that's how much he can do. So the good guys are negotiating, well, should I take that action? Should I do that? But then we're just going to give him more power. We're going to give the bad guy more power to screw us over. So it's this constant tension, constant making the best of these tough choices. I really like Level 7 Omega Protocol. There's a few dungeon crawlers that have come close to it. I played some recently that I really rather liked, but that to me is still probably my favorite. So that is Level 7 Omega Protocol. That is from Privateer Press, my number 10. All right, I'm going to go ahead and jump into my number 9.
All right, go right ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. My number 9 is, again, this is another game that you have not played that I fell in love with a couple of years ago when I first played it. But there's a big tournament scene. There's a lot. It's a collectible game, and I don't really collect a lot of it. I just play the base game, and I've got a few of the bigger box expansions. But this is Android Netrunner from Fantasy Flight Games. Android Netrunner is a card game and it's an asymmetrical card game. One of you is a hacker, one of you is a corporation, and of course the hacker is trying to hack into the corporation. The corporation's trying to set traps for the hacker, and it's a great game of bluff and double bluff. And it's just so much fun the way you're playing the cards and you're trying to bluff out the other guy. And there's so many combinations just with the cards in the core set of things you can do. And if you collect this game, if you do the tournament stuff, I'd lose my mind. Yeah. There's so many combinations and so many things you could do in those circumstances. But it's one I want you to play so bad at some point. We got to sit down and play. Fun. I'll tell you though, one of the reasons I don't play this game more often is it is one of the hardest games to teach.
Really?
I'm not sure I'm still even playing everything in it right. Yeah. But it's fun. When you get it, it is so much fun. But there's just so much you got to learn. But that is my number 9, Android Netrunner from Fantasy Flight Games. All right, your number 9.
My number 9 is a game I've played once, maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
Okay.
But it left an impression. Eclipse.
Eclipse, yeah.
Was the name of this game. And we played it, a couple of weeks after a game that I'm sure we'll be mentioning sometime on this list, another sci-fi game. Okay. But I remember the hexes. I remember it was more about, seemed more economic. It seemed more...
Eclipse is kind of like essentially it's a Euro game with a space theme. Now there is some combat, there is some dice rolling.
But that wasn't the gist of it. No. That was the most important part of it.
No, you've got all of the different cubes on your player aid, and you take over the planets, and then you put the cubes from your player aid on the planet, and then it opens up your player aid to give you more options, more power, more buying power, more what have you. And it's really cool like that.
Yeah, I remember it was a lot of fun. I remember enjoying that quite a bit. We had a good group of guys that night.
Yeah, we did. That was back when Sean was in his apartment.
Sean was in his apartment. We were there every week.
Yeah, and we had a blast. But that's a super fun game. I like Eclipse a lot too. Yeah. So. And that's from Asmodee.
Oh, cool!
And one of their companies, I don't remember the exact company, but it's Asmodee, giant umbrella corporation. That is your number 9?
That's my number 9.
We're going to go ahead and take us to your number 8.
Okay, number 8 is a new game that came out last year and that I've still only played once, but not that long ago, so I remember more of it. New Angeles.
New Angeles. Very
good,
Angeles. Yeah.
We count that as a science fiction game.
And New Angeles is set in the Android Netrunner universe.
It's
it's in the same, the artwork. Half of me believes that Fantasy Flight Games made New Angeles just because they had all this leftover artwork and stuff, and they said, let's make a new game here. But no, go ahead.
No, it's a great game. It's a hidden trader game, and I love hidden trader games. And it's all about business and corporations. And what really struck me about this game was the victory conditions and how they were so varied. Now you can have multiple winners and multiple losers, but everyone gets a corporation, and then everybody gets a corporation that they're trying to do better at, they're trying to hurt, and then someone's the federal government, right?
Yeah, the Federalist.
Yeah, someone's the Federalist, and if they get ahead of everyone, then they win, and you're working together, and you're spending capital, and you're trying to decide, well, what do we need to do this? So you're working together, but you're working against each other at the same time.
Co-opetition game.
Yeah, co-opetition.
Yeah, I heard that. I first heard that term used for Churchill, which came out 2015, which is a great game. But I think that works for that. It's a co-opetition game.
Yeah, it's co-opetition. You have to work together, but you all are trying to work against each other at the same time.
Well, you're trying to work against your specific rival because you each have those specific rivals, and that's who you're trying to get against. And it is. It's a negotiation game. And I'll tell you right now, my favorite mechanic in board games is negotiation. Oh, yeah. I love negotiation in games where you're talking with people, and you're screaming at people, and you're yelling at people, and you are laughing at them. Yeah. So I agree. New Angeles is a fantastic game.
Yeah, and you won as a Federalist.
I won as a Federalist. Yeah. I do have to say this. Played that game 3 or 4 times now. Federalist has won every time. Every game I played.
So you think it's a little slighted to one side?
I think it should be. I mean, it's like Battlestar Galactica, where the Silents are going to win more often than not. Yeah. And I think in a hidden trader game, the hidden trader should win more often than not. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe just the games I played of that, but I'm hoping we can see the non-Federalist win.
Yeah.
All right. So anything else you want to add?
No, that's it. New Angeles.
New Angeles. That's your number 8, correct?
Yes.
Okay, my number 8 is a game that we actually just now finished a game of, and that is Legendary Encounters Alien, an alien deck building game. Now, we actually just played with the expansion, and I'll be doing my review here before long, but the game itself, to me, is the best of the Legendary games.
I agree.
Because it is intense when those cards are coming at you face down. And they do that again in Predator, they do it again in Firefly, and it's great in both those games. But there's something about Alien that really brings you into the movie. What were you saying earlier about it?
Oh, it's scary.
Well,
it's a scary
the
game.
scene where they're
Oh yeah. Well, that was we were playing with my son earlier today too, and there's the scene in Aliens, which is my favorite James Cameron movie, by the way. But the scene in Aliens when they're in the medical lab and they got the sensor and the aliens are coming and they're coming close. I don't know where they're coming. To me, every time I play that game, it feels like I'm in that scene of the game.
Yeah.
That's the scene I'm in. And I love the Legendary games. Marvel I like, and all of them. Like you said, Firefly does that same mechanic, but it doesn't have that same feeling of fear and dread. With Alien, we pulled that alien, and it was there, and it kept killing us until I was dead. Maybe the hardest game I've ever played as far as trying to win.
It's tough. And, I mean, a lot of times play that game, it's funny because you do play that game to see how far you can go. It's not even necessarily to win if you're the humans. And indeed, with the expansion, there's a thing where it's saying, you can score it like that. It's like, okay, that's acknowledging a reality.
Exactly.
Because it's such a tough game. I beat it before. It is a beatable game, but it's tough. It's a tough game.
But that's a lot of the appeal, too.
Yeah, absolutely. You wouldn't want to play an easy cooperative game.
No.
You wouldn't want to do it.
No, if you're winning all the time, I feel Legendary Marvel can be a little too easy. I think when I played with my son a few times, I think it's a little too much on the easy side.
I think it depends on the scheme. Because some of those schemes are killer, and then some of them, I agree, are a little lighter.
But Legendary Alien, I think I agree, the best of the Legendary deck building
So
games.
that is from Legendary Encounters, an alien deck building game. That's from Upper Deck. That is my number 8. So let me go ahead, and I will jump now into my number 7. You did your 8, right?
Yeah, I did my 8. So that's your
so it is my number 7 is one we've already had. We've already discussed. Yeah. Eclipse. Eclipse, again, great economic game. A game, science fiction game, but it's really an economic game. Sam Healy on the Dice Tower was really disappointed. I remember because he said he was expecting it to be like Twilight Imperium, but he says no, it's really a completely different game, and he didn't like it. So Eclipse is a economic game in space. It's very a lot of people think it's going to be a kind of a more Ameritrash game because there's dice rolling and space combat and stuff, and there are those things, which is one of the reasons why I do like it. But there is kind of that indirect competition for the planets and the resources. So it does feel very Euro-y, and the way you've got to kind of manage your economy and your budget as you're doing things, it's spacey and science fiction-y enough and Euro trashy enough that I get a kick out of it. But at the same time, it's got some really cool Euro mechanics in it. So I agree. Like you, I really liked it. So now, and that's from Asmodee. And what number was Eclipse for you?
Eclipse was 9 for me.
And my number 7, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got your number 7 now?
My number 7 is another intellectual property game.
Ooh.
Firefly.
Firefly.
The board game.
The game from... it's from Gale Force 9.
Yeah. Whenever I talk about Firefly, I always had to talk about the first time playing it. It was the most frustrating game I have ever played. And it was a long game. We did like 4 or 5 hours on it. But it is so much fun. It's one of those games that has so much going on that you can get in that mode where you're not trying to win, you're just trying to do all these other little things around at the same time.
Right.
We're like, I want to do this and organize this, and after a couple hours of doing that, you're like, well, why don't I try and actually win the game? It hits the theme very well of Firefly. It's going to different planets, you're doing missions, you're smuggling stuff, you've got those pesky Reavers, that's what they're called, right? The Reavers that are at you. The board is big and beautiful. He played it with
the expansions. It adds so much more.
That is one of those games where the expansions just make it even better. Sometimes expansions are kind of hit or miss for me, but for that, I
what's interesting about that game is it's a sandbox game. You can do whatever you want. You can go where you want. You can play it how you want to play it. And with the expansions, it's giving you just more missions, more worlds, more ways to make money. So in that sense, it expands the experience very much.
You can almost feel like you're kind of on your own, just playing it, and everyone else is just kind of playing their own game at the same time.
It is. It's kind of one of those multiple player solitaire games.
Yeah.
Except there is with one of the expansions, they do have some ship to ship combat.
Right.
So you do have those options in the game, but there is that feeling of it's almost kind of you're all playing your own solitaire game. There is some of that. But I think the game's strengths kind of outweigh any negativity that would come.
No, absolutely, and that is even quite a negativity anyway. But it's a great game. Firefly, the board game.
Firefly, the board game. That's your number 7.
That's my number 7.
All right, what's your number 6?
My number 6 is the first and not the last Star Wars game that you will find on my list.
Okay, all right.
I'm starting with Armada.
Armada. All right.
I'm putting Armada
Star
as
Wars
number
Armada.
6. Kind of a follow-up to X-Wing miniatures, but very different. I love the gameplay. I love the models. It's kind of, I don't know if I want to say simpler, but it seems more...
It's more. I think it's more elegant.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it.
And it's what I like about it too is it gives you. In X-Wing, when you get hit, it's just you roll die to see if you evaded. And here, you actually have choices when you're hit.
Yeah.
You have choices. Well, how do I want to mitigate that? And how do I want to spend these tokens? Do I want to get rid of these tokens? What do I want to do to do it? So there's more, to me, it's just more strategic. Mm-hmm. And just seeing the big, beautiful models moving around in space battles. I can't wait. I cannot wait. Sooner or later, they're going to come out with the Hammerhead cruisers. We saw in Rogue One.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, that's going to happen. So I'm excited for that. I love Armada too.
Yeah, Armada, great game.
Which at this point, that's from Fantasy Flight Games. And at this point, let me just say, I actually elected not to put any Star Wars or Star Trek IPs on my list because A, I knew Zach could cover a lot of them, but B, that'd be my whole list is Star Trek and Star Wars games. So I love these games, but because they're Star Trek and Star Wars, I decided they're not going to be on my list. So that's why you're not seeing any on my list, although otherwise they'd be on my list. Yeah. Some of them very much so, and I'm sure. And Armada would definitely be on that list for sure.
You'll see plenty from me.
Okay, so that was your number 6, right?
That was my number 6.
Okay, my number 6 is a game that once again we have already discussed, and that is Firefly the board game. Not going to go over it too much again, except I do love this game for all the reasons we said. Big sandbox game, great theme,
great game,
tremendous fun. I love it. It's a game you want to set aside an evening for.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of time. Not too crazy. I mean, I think we played 4 or 5 hour games, but it's not too bad. But it's
a commitment.
It's not your 1 or 2 hour game.
Yeah. Agreed, but fun game. Okay, so that's my number 6. My number 5 is a game that just came out early last year. This is a game from GMT Games, who is primarily a war game company, and they came out with this game called Talon. Now, Talon is kind of a tactical. Well, it's kind of like Armada in that you're dealing with capital ships, right? But instead of actually having models, you have these little hexes, and you're moving hexes along a board. But the hexes are pretty big, and so what you do is you have dry erase markers. You write on the hexes kind of what your power curve is. Mm-hmm. And then what you do is you consult a chart that every phase or impulse, I think they call it, every impulse, you see kind of what activates your power phase. You know, what do you have an action? Can you move? What can you do? And to me, it's a lot like Armada. Of course, it's a lot simpler to set up and take down than Armada.
Yeah.
And Armada, I'll give the edge to Armada because it's Star Wars and because I do love the models. But Talon to me is just it gives me kind of that same fix as Armada, but it's a kind of a simpler game in a lot of ways. I don't even know if it's a simpler game. It's an easier game to set up and take down. Easy game to play and to teach. And I absolutely love Talon from GMT Games. That is another one I got to get you to play.
I haven't played that one yet.
Yeah, you've got to. Mm-hmm. All right, so that was my number 5? What's your number 5?
Okay, my number 5 is a game that we've already talked about.
Oh.
Legendary Encounters Aliens.
Legendary Encounters and Alien deck building game.
Alien deck building game. That's my number 5. I have it on my top 5. Don't want to rehash it too much.
Sure.
But I love this game. We played it like Cody said. We just played the expansion, and I love the legendary deck building games, and this one is my favorite.
It is. It's the best, hands down. And with it, and I'll just give you a preview right now. Like the expansion a lot, and there's some nuance and other things I'll say for my review. But I like the expansion a lot, and I hope they do more stuff with this game because it's just so much fun. And I'm sure they will. And I want to see more Legendary Encounters games, too.
Oh, yeah. Great games.
All right. So that was your 5. Let's see. Now,
so it'd be my turn to do 4.
Okay. Go ahead.
4 is a real big game. My number 4 is Twilight Imperium.
Twilight? I never heard of it.
You never heard of Twilight Imperium?
Never heard of this game.
Never heard of this game. It's a big game. In doing reviews and talking about it before, I always say this, but I remember the first time playing the game at Sean's apartment, pulling it out of the box, and from opening the box to finishing the first game turn, it took us 3 hours.
Yeah. And
that was just game turn 1. And there was a moment, and then when my brother Sean and I looked at each other, it just started laughing. Because it was so layered in so many things.
And I remember what it is. We pulled like a political objective. Yeah. Somebody said something about if the agenda has been resolved, and like our heads weren't even in there. And I had read the rules, but you get so caught up. We're like, and I'm like, and Sean, you guys were just like, oh my God.
That was the time the game would resolve the political agenda, and Sean and I looked at each each other. We just started laughing because we were already 2 hours into this game.
Yeah.
And it was killing us, but we got through it, and we played it again not too long after, and it is a massive game.
It is.
Probably the most massive one that I played.
It's a long game.
It's a long game, but it is such a great game. I have it at number 4, and I'm assuming I might see it a little later. I could talk about it again.
Okay.
But Twilight Imperium, great game.
And that is a game at some point, my friend, you must play again.
I need to play again. It's been too
again.
long. I've only
Yeah.
played it
'Cause
twice.
we were, well, I'll talk, well, maybe that'll come up later.
Maybe it'll be
all right.
also on your list.
So that was your 4, so
That was
now
my number
it's
4.
my 4,
Yeah, you
right?
said your 4.
Okay, so my number 4 is a game that, so Fantasy Flight Games did Twilight Imperium. Fantasy Flight Games also did my number 4. This is a game that came out early 15, I think. Early 15. And this is a game you've played, I think just with the one time. I played it a few times. And they actually just came out with an expansion for it, which I have not played with the expansion yet. But that is XCOM, the board game.
Oh.
Now, XCOM is great because it's got an app. And you've each got, of course.
I remember this one now.
You've each
Now I
got
remember
your roles. You've got the guy that does the app, the intelligence officer. You've got the commander who's got to watch the budget. You've got the scientist who develops new technologies, and you've got the security guy that's deploying military forces. And it's a game. I remember you use the app, and then you do everything timed, and then you resolve everything. And I saw an interview with Eric Lang, and he's the designer of the game, and he said, he wanted to create a game where the pressure's on, but then there's a moment where you step back and you can kind of. And that's what the game is. It's very fun. XCOM, the board game, is just a tremendously fun cooperative game, and I'm excited to play the expansion at some point. You liked it.
I did. I remember we played it the one time. I really liked it.
Yeah, we played it at Jeff's, I think, that one night.
Yeah. As I was talking to you, I just remembered one game that I forgot to put on my list.
Save it for the end. Do
I'll
an
save it
honorable
for the end.
mention.
I'm going to do an honorable mention. I got my honorable mention now.
Okay.
All right.
All right, so that was my number 4, or Vier, as the Germans say. My number 3, now, I mentioned earlier a game called Talon. Talon came out last year. My number 3, are we on, or 4?
Let's see. I did 4.
Okay, so this is my
Should
number
be
3. This is my
Should
number
be
3,
3.
yeah. My number 3 is a game that came out I think in 2012 or 11, and it was a game that is actually kind of the progenitor of Talon. Talon is, like I say, is actual fleet combat. Yeah. This game is GMT Games Space Empires 4X. Space Empires 4X is kind of the macro version of it. It's like a war game where your spaceships are chits that you're moving around the board. What's so cool about this game, and again, this is another one I want you to play.
Yeah, I haven't played this one either.
What's so cool about it is your chits, all of your ships, just to look at them, look exactly the same. You can see a stack, but you don't know what's in the stack. And it's because they're all, so you don't know. You also have decoys. So your enemy doesn't know which ships are real and which ones are decoys until they actually engage them, and they can flip them over and see what it is. But then when you actually engage in combat, you've got some of your heavier ships can screen some of the smaller ships, and it's a tremendous combat system in the game. You've got economics, you've got technology. In some way, it's a 4X game, obviously. The explore, expand, exploit, exterminate. You're doing all the X's there. But it is, it's kind of like a Twilight Imperium in some ways, but it's more emphasis on war game, and it's brilliant. It is so much fun. I played that. First time I played that was with Sean, and then I think I've only ever played that with Sean, and I think George Anderson joined us for one game one time. But so I haven't played it in years. I've got an expansion for it. I haven't played with it yet, but I love Space Empires 4X. So that is a tremendous fun game, again, from GMT Games.
Okay, my number 3.
Your number 3.
My number 3 is second, but not my last, Star Wars game.
Let me guess.
All right, let's see what you guess.
X-Wing?
Not yet.
Okay, go ahead.
Star Wars Rebellion.
I thought you'd put Rebellion higher.
It was, it was really my 2 and 3 is a coin flip, and I'll explain why I gave the edge to my 2. But I'll start with Star Wars Rebellion, which is a fairly new game. But I love this game. I love Star Wars Rebellion.
We played it a couple weeks ago.
We played it a couple weeks ago, and I won as the Rebels again. No,
you're the Empire. You're the Empire.
As the Empire, and I love playing the Empire. It's one of the games where it's like the two sides. It's a great 2-player game. And it's hard to find good 2-player games sometimes. And this is a great 2-player game. And it's where each side's kind of playing their own game. The Empire's playing a different game than what the Rebels are playing. And the board is great, and everything is great about it. The miniatures on it are good. You're trying to find as I played the Empire, I only really know it from the side of the Empire. Spend the whole time trying to find the rebels and figuring out, and I'm getting the cards. I'm thinking, okay, it's not this planet, it's not this planet. At the end of the game, your mind is exploding because you have so much information, and you're trying to figure it out. But it's a really good game that, especially with the new movie Rogue One coming out, and in the Rebels cartoon, you really kind of a lot has been focused on that part of the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
And it's really fun to explore that element of it.
It is. It's just a game. Again, this is a game that if it was on my top 10, it'd be easily top 3.
Oh,
of this.
yeah.
It was. I think this is my 4th game of all time, 4th or 5th game of all time when I did my top 100 games. Star Wars Rebellion to me is just brilliant. It's so much fun, sucks you into that universe. And you brought it up when we talked about it the other day, that it's the toy factor. You've got a real toy, and that's true of a lot of these games we're talking about. Armada for sure, and whatnot. But
like when we were kids, we played with the Star Wars toys, and now we have an excuse to still play with the Star Wars toys a little bit.
Exactly.
It's kind of fun,
and it's But I love Rebellion so much, and I'm so eager and hopeful about what they'll do with expansions. I mean, you could totally see them kind of. I mean, I don't know that they'll do it, but you could totally see them with a few tweaks and a few more cards and characters and stuff. Set it in the prequel era if that was something you wanted to do, or even Force Awakens era. There's a lot of room there for growth. I mean, hell, they could release an expansion pack, just a card pack like based on Rogue One. On Rogue One,
easily,
you know? So anyway,
just put another little section of the board out there. You'd be all set.
Well, anyway, so that
was my number 3.
That's your number 3.
Number 2 is my third and last Star Wars games.
Okay.
And as I talk about Rebellion, I almost kind of wish I put that number 2. But 2 and 3 were just a coin flip. Number 2 is X-Wing Miniatures.
X-Wing Miniatures.
And the reason I gave it the edge, and I almost regret it a little bit, but I don't. It's just maybe the history I've had with X-Wing miniatures over the last few years is a little bit deeper. You gave me 2 core sets to start it on, and every Christmas my kids will buy me another miniature, put in my stocking, and every year my son and I try and play at least one game, and we got the board, but we spent just a lot of time playing that. It was my first real experience with a miniature game.
Every Christmas you guys try to get you and your son.
Yeah, we try and get an epic one, and we didn't, but we're going to have to save it for some other break coming up, but we didn't get it this year. We always try and do it every year to play our big, massive X-Wing miniature games. The toy factor that we talked about, but it's just I had never played the miniature mechanic before, and with this game.
Yeah.
And,
again, the first time we played was when Sean, when he was in the one house before he was.
Yeah.
I remember when I brought it, and you were like, "What the hell is this?"
Oh yeah, it was odd playing a game that didn't have spaces, and you're just moving it through the little measuring thing. But by now, We've got all the ships, and I've got the boxes where I'm storing everything, and it's a great game.
I
give that the edge to Rebellion just probably for that one factor, but it's such a wonderful game.
I found that I kind of lost my enthusiasm for X-Wing when, first of all, when Armada came out.
Yeah.
I've actually kind of stopped collecting X-Wing. I haven't played it in a long time because, to me, if it's a question, I'd rather play Armada. Armada's a longer game too, but to me, there's just so much more depth there. I do like X-Wing. If somebody pulled it out and said, "Let's play X-Wing," I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? But to me, it was kind of subsumed by that, by Armada, and two, also one of the things that kind of I find I lose some interest is when they stop getting away from the ships in the actual movie and they start going expanded universe stuff. I mean, okay. I mean, I realize they got to go places and do things, but to me, what's cool is playing with ships, and you love,
right?
Know?
Yeah.
So, and I've got some of the expanded universe Armada stuff too. So it's not like I'm immune to that there. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I prefer I prefer kind of playing with the ships and love.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so that was your number 2?
That was my number 2.
All right, so now it's my number 2. To me, you look like number 2. The game, this is a game that is very special to myself, and I believe to Zach. To me, this game is important in the lore of Codydom, because for a long time, for years, almost since high school, I really was not excited or enthusiastic about playing a board game unless it was Axis and Allies or Risk or Diplomacy. Unless it was a war game, an historical war game with a map of Europe or something like that.
Yeah.
I just was not that interested in it. I played a few here and there that were okay, but really, that's the only games I really had any desire to play is war games like that. And then for Christmas, a friend of mine bought me this game, and I was dare I say, I was kind of disappointed because I was like, oh, okay, we'll see what it's like. Well, I'll humor him and play it. That was almost the attitude I had, and I was such a damned fool because it's a brilliant game, and I loved the IP, and I still do. And I'm talking, of course, about
Battlestar Galactica.
Battlestar Galactica. Battlestar Galactica, to me, was the game that really that introduced me into modern gaming, into the world of the possibilities of all these different games that I could try. And that was it. That was the first one that ignited my imagination in this new direction that kind of led to the fame and success I've achieved with the Discriminating Gamer. But I love it. I love this game. Why do you love this game? I know you love it.
Well, the game is great. I always got to throw this one in. I don't like the expansions. But I love the base game. I mean, the
Pegasus
is fine, but I'm not a big fan of the expansions. But the base game, and the game is great, and the mechanic is great, but the thing I love about this game is every time we have played it, it has just been one of the best times you can have with a group of friends.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the jokes, the laughter, the whatever you want to call it, the anger, the frustration, the yelling, all in good fun. It's just, I have never seen a game, to a lesser extent, Diplomacy did that to us back in the day when we used to play Diplomacy, which is my all-time favorite game. But this one even takes that whole idea and makes it even bigger. And it's...
Well, I think one of the reasons it does that is because this is probably, it could be the best game I've ever played that creates a group tension, a shared group tension. I think the most tense game I've ever played is when you're playing Jack in Letters from Whitechapel. But for a group tension, this is the game that does it better than anything. Whether you're the Cylon or the humans, there's this shared tension. And so any joke you make is like 10 times funnier because you need to let off steam, And I think that goes a long way towards success. But the game is brilliant because it is a hidden trader game. It's the first hidden trader game I ever played.
Oh, yeah. I don't think we've ever played a game like that before.
No, I never played anything like that before. And then two, again, we love the IP. We love the TV show.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever played a game, an IP game, that so well fitted the IP. I think Rebellion comes closest.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I still think I'll give the edge to Battlestar on that because that tension that is so present in the TV show is so much part of the game.
Well, that's the mark of a good IP game.
Yes.
If it totally immerses you into the theme and what it is. I mean, it came out. I can't remember if Battlestar Galactica concluded its series or was kind of towards the end there when it came out or when we started playing it.
I don't recall.
But we really, we enjoyed the series, and I have never played an IP game that I felt immersed you into it more than Battlestar Galactica.
Exactly.
No game with an intellectual property has done that better for me than Battlestar Galactica.
If you want to laugh with your friends, you want to just have a freaking good time, you play Battlestar Galactica. It's a game I haven't played in a long time. We got to play it again.
We've got to get a couple games.
One thing I do want to mention. He mentioned the expansions, and let me say this. I think the expansions. It's a game that I think doesn't really need as many as expansions as it's got.
It does not.
But I will say this about the expansions it does have. First of all, the Pegasus, the new Caprica stuff, just you don't need that. But the Pegasus board is, I think, really good. Adds a real good layer to it. I like all the expansions, how they bring new characters. I like that a lot, so you can choose from new characters. And I like how all the expansions bring kind of new minis and new stuff to the. I like all that.
For me, it's when I bring the new cards and the new rules and stuff that it brings too. It's adding too many brush strokes to the canvas.
Too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah,
and I think there's something to be said for that. But having said that, what my point is that even if you don't play with those new rules and those new cards, there's still good stuff in all the expansions.
Yeah. And to bring up how I don't, my feelings on the expansion isn't to demean the game at all. It's just to build up how great that base
the core game is. Yeah.
The core game is that good. It doesn't need anything else.
That's true.
It's great as it is.
That's true. You can buy the core game and just be happy with that. If you're going to buy an expansion, get Pegasus. But all right. So that is my number 2. So I'll go ahead and do my number 1 since we've already talked about it. And then you did your 2, right?
Yes, I did my 2.
Okay, so I'll do my number 1. Okay, so my number 1...
Actually, let me do my number 1 since we just talked about it.
Oh, go ahead.
The more I think about it. My number 1 also is Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
I think it's my second favorite game of all time behind Diplomacy, which I love Diplomacy, but not to retread it, anything else, Battlestar Galactica, my favorite science fiction game of all time.
It's good. It's really, really good. And that, of course, from Fantasy Flight Games, brilliant. And that subsequently turned me on to, Fantasy Flight Games, if you look at my top 10 lists, Fantasy Flight Games dominates my top 10 list. And I mean, again, a lot of it, maybe there was just some affection there for that first experience I had with Battlestar.
Yeah.
All right. The games are legitimately very good. That's why I love them. But
Absolutely.
we just introduced him to Fury of Dracula the other night, and he got a kick out of that.
That was a good game.
Battlestar Galactica is also my number 2 game of all time. I should point out. That's my number 2 game of all time. My number 1 game of all time is also my number 1 science fiction game, Twilight Imperium 3rd Edition. Twilight Imperium 3rd Edition is a game that, first of all, so we played it that first time, and it was kind of rocky, but we saw it had a lot of possibilities. First time we played it.
Absolutely.
Played it again not long after. It went a lot smoother. It was good. We were playing like 4-player games there.
Yeah.
Now, I think it wasn't last year. I think I played it once or twice. The year before, we played it like 4 or 5 times. Zach didn't. Zach's only played it those first 2 times.
I played it twice,
but I played it several times since. And I got to tell you, for what I love about this game is, first of all, it's got combat. You got spaceships. So again, the toy factor there. But you've got resource management, you've got economics, and you've got trade, and you've got a tech tree and science, and you've got diplomacy where you got to work with the other players and make promises there. And you can kind of customize it with expansions and stuff, how deep you want it. There's some mechanics I'm just not interested. I just don't play with those things. And then there's other mechanics that sometimes I'll just play like with one here, and it's like, oh my gosh, these things are so awesome. Last game I played, we played with the characters, the leaders, and that was a lot of fun. So I really enjoy it. I really like the was it the Lost Suns or whatever, where it makes it 4X, where you land there and you flip over the tokens and stuff. Anyway, it's so much fun. But to me, there's one of the things I love about so many games is in a lot of games out there, including Rebellion, including a lot of these others, there's kind of a role-playing aspect to it, where you take on the role of the faction you're playing or the side you're playing. And there's a lot of good games that do it very well, like Rebellion, like Battlestar Galactica. Yeah. But to me, my favorite one that does that for that aspect is Twilight Imperium. Yeah. Do you remember the time? It was one of the times we played it, and I was the distinguished gentleman from Galactic South. We in the deep Galactic South speak with one voice, and you just totally the whole game. I've got a Southern accent.
Well, you start a game at 8 o'clock that's 6 hours long. You're going to get punchy around game term number 5.
Yeah, it's true,
and it's fun. Just those little things. The thing about Twilight Imperium, I have a number 4 on my list, but to me, that game is kind of like, I love the movie Citizen Kane, and many critics will say Citizen Kane is the best movie of all time. Now, it's not my favorite movie, but it's a great movie.
Yeah, that's my favorite movie of all time.
But you can concede that it is probably the greatest movie of all time. Twilight Imperium is like that with board games.
Okay.
It may not be my favorite game, but you have to say it is the best science fiction game it's ever put together.
Well, to maybe be more specific, it's the best space opera game that's ever been put together.
Where it's not quite my number 1, it's a game I still like. I have to recognize that is, as far as science fiction games, and you say sci-fi opera games, that's it.
Well, it's funny too, because for a long time after Fantasy Flight got the Star Wars IP, Tom Vasel at the Dice Tower was always joking they're going to make Twilight Imperium 4th Edition as a Star Wars version, and there's that's cool. Well, they made Rebellion, and I think that's kind of their what they did with it, and that's fine. But every now and then you hear people talking about they'll do a 4th edition of Twilight Imperium. I don't know what they could improve. I mean, honestly, another expansion I'm sure could do things, but I just fundamentally the game is so. The only drawback to that game is it's very long. Now, when I say that's a drawback, I mean it's a drawback because you got to set aside the time if I'm able to play it. But actually playing it, it never feels that long. It feels like an event. I mean, when we play that game, it's an event.
If you got to spend 8 hours doing something, that's not a bad way to spend it.
It's fun. It's tremendous fun. I love Twilight Imperium 3rd Edition. My favorite science fiction game. My favorite board game of all time. Okay, so what was the honorable mention?
One honorable mention I want to put in there. It's a very small game. It's a deck building game. Star Realms.
Oh yeah.
It's one I've gotten a lot of kick out. I had a lot of fun with, gotten a kick out of. It's a fun little quick 2-player deck builder game.
That is good. Did you ever play Cthulhu Wars?
Oh yes, I did play Cthulhu Wars.
Not Cthulhu Wars. Cthulhu Realms.
Oh, I don't know.
Because it's from the same guy. It's the same game, but it's Cthulhu, but it's multiplayer. It's like up to 4 players.
Oh yeah,
and that's a lot of fun too. But Star Realms is probably superior. I actually bought the second one. In Star Realms,
was that any good?
I haven't played it. I haven't played it yet.
You gotta play this.
Yeah. All right. So now, really quickly, I got a lot here that I just want to mention for my.
Honorable mentions.
I put New Angeles an honorable mention.
Okay.
I'd call that an honorable mention. Forbidden Stars, which is a Warhammer game, also from Fantasy Flight. That is, it's out of print now because of the whole split with Games Workshop and Fantasy Flight game.
All right.
That's a great IP game with in Warhammer universe. Mission Red Planet, which is a great kind of Euro game where you're trying to colonize Mars with your workers, and anyway, it's really fun. Zaya, Legends of a Drift System, which is very similar to Firefly, the board game, which I actually initially liked better than Firefly, but the more I played Firefly, the more I like that better. But Zaya is really cool, got cool models there too.
Yeah.
Escape from the Aliens in Outer Space, which is a game where you are, it's a hidden movement game where it's like a team hidden movement game where you've got dry erase pads and some of your aliens try to hunt the humans. Yeah. And you're going on these grids. Anyway, it's a lot of fun. And then finally, one I want to mention that Zach hates, Rex.
I hate Rex.
I like Rex. I still think you need to try it again. But anyway.
No, anyway, maybe.
So anyway, those are the honorable mentions. So leave a comment. Let us know what you think about our selections for board games here. We'd love to hear what you have to say and whatever, Anyway, you got anything you want to add?
No.
All right. Well, thank you once again for joining us on The Discriminating Gamer. As always, we ask you to please leave a comment for us on YouTube, on Board Game Geek, on our Facebook page, or on thediscriminatinggamer.com. We ask you to please like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and follow us on Twitter. We are The Discriminating Gamer, and we're glad we have friends. Okay,
that was weird.
Please somebody help me on my feet again, and I don't know where I'm going, and I don't know where I've been. Please somebody help me on the solid ground. It's a long time, and I've been dying. Once a year I wind up in the band. God knows that I love to fight, but I don't ever win. It's a fine line to damnation, but God let me in.
Excuse me. You guys see you have a teacher?
Yes,
You need a
yes.
teacher?
The
All right,
school
I'm
book
pretty.
is huge.
I got to be honest, I'm pretty familiar with Netrunner.
Okay.
Netrunner, basically, Netrunner is a game of mystery, intrigue, and romance. And all three of those elements come into play. I'm not going to worry about the rule book because I'm so familiar with it.
Okay.
Every time you buy this game, you get different cards.
Really?
It's like buying it's like you open up a big box of Magic the Gathering cards.
Oh.
And that's why they got to keep these protected. Now you notice there's going to be a number here in the top corner.
Okay.
That is the order of play number. So what you do is you got to organize all your 2s and 3s and 1s together, okay? And then you put your deck down. So say I'm going to let you grab your deck. Okay, you can play with. These are different characters. These are all different characters. I'm going to be the red team.
Okay.
The red team. Which actually, interesting, a little fact. They weren't able to use that name. They wanted to call this red team, but because of red team in Star Wars, they weren't able to use that. So this is the Crimson League. Is what this is. Okay, so grab your 3 cards, or I'm sorry, grab a hand of 7. So all right, so I'm gonna play 1, and this is the code cracker.
Okay.
So I get to expose a card, use that ability, but only if I've made a successful run on HQ. Okay, which I haven't done yet. Which is when I go to the inside job, which I make a run and bypass the first piece of ice encounter.
Okay.
But we're playing a tropical game. So there's not going to be any ice anywhere. It's a climate thing, so that's not going to work out well for me. But then this, I cover my 2 cards with an Aurora, and I break a 17. I get +3 strength, and because of that, I do 5-6 damage
Okay.
to you. Okay, it's your turn.
How much
Let's see if you
damage
got
do
it.
I have?
You have 25 damage.
Hopefully this.
Ooh, the Victor 1.0. That's actually a virus that affects you.
Oh no!
And so I do, that's 4 more damage you take. Yeah, I'm so sorry.